Hello and welcome to another edition of Straight Talk, and I'm your host, Bob Anderson. I'm excited tonight because we're going to be talking some healthcare issues, which is a hot topic in our state. So I'm pleased to welcome my guest, Joshua. You're on here with us tonight. Maybe introduce yourself to the audience. And
Hi, I'm Joshua Wickander. I live in Hugo, Minnesota. We've talked a couple of times on Facebook and chatted back and forth about this issue. Kind of have some differing opinions.
Oh, exactly. And I appreciate you willing to come on because a lot of times we get on these social media and we have these debates going on, and some of them are civil and some of them people get pretty hot, behind the keyboard and everything. But I respect the fact that you're willing to come on because I've asked other people to come on and they've kind of shied away from it. So I know we have differing opinions, but we're both we're here to discuss it, and you've got a lot of knowledge about the issue too. And the standpoint I'm coming from was this reinsurance bill. In fact, it just passed today, and it's on the governor's desk, and I was pretty much against it, vehemently against it, because I've been advocating for a few years before this ever took place for opening Minnesota Care up as a public option, because I felt that was one of the many shortfalls of Obamacare was that there was no public option. And I feel that in order to compete and keep pricing down with the private insurance companies, we need another option. So I was hoping with the governor, I rarely agree with Governor Dayton, but two things I did agree with him with was that the Affordable Care Act became the Unaffordable Care Act, which I agree with him. And the other thing was, though, that he wanted to open up Minnesota Care to, I would like to open it up to everybody in Minnesota. He was, I think, in the outstate areas, at least for sure. But that is, it's not in this reinsurance. And in fact, Representative Matt Dean, I know, wanted to abolish Minnesota Care and MNsure and put us all onto the federal exchange.
Well, part of what you run into when you deal with the ACA in general, you start with the federal one. That required us to abolish any other system that we had in place in Minnesota. Minnesota had a high-risk pool. A high-risk pool to deal with the weakest and sickest among us, to help them, to get them to where they needed to be without changing or driving up costs in the non-high-risk pool. The premise behind the ACA is at its point is weak at best. Okay, it has nothing to do with healthcare costs. It had to do with gaining people access to insurance. Then you wanted to make the insurance affordable. So what you did is you took the sickest and weakest among us and put them in the same pool as those who tend to be just starting out their career and the healthiest among us, and then required them to buy health insurance. And you wonder why no one can afford it. It was designed to fail.
To go for single payer?
To go for single payer and completely abolish insurance companies out there. And part of the problem we have is Governor Dayton implemented MNsure.
Right.
And when they did it, they copied and pasted the wording from the laws of the ACA and put that into place here in Minnesota. So it abolished our high-risk pool. It took away the options. Now, part of the reason that you run into with the insurance companies doing things like this in Minnesota, being nonprofit, they're the ones who dictate the rates that hospitals will charge.
Yep.
The federal government goes in and says, with Medicare, we're going to pay X amount for each procedure. The clinics and hospitals then have to figure out what they're going to charge for each additional procedure. There's no competition. There's no conversation for innovation. There's nothing to push innovation when you go to a public option. So while I agree that the reinsurance bill is not my first choice, I understand why we did it, and I support them for doing it, just because we had to fix the problem for the people that were forced into this through no fault of their own. There were a lot of people who didn't ask for us to create MNsure. There were a lot of people who had other insurance options through their employers, or they had personal insurance that they could use. And because of the mistakes that were made by creating MNsure and the ACA, we've all of a sudden taken any ability for them to have health insurance out of the mix, unless you can buy it through an employer.
Right. And my thought process, first of all, was with the Affordable Care Act from the federal side of it was, I wanted to see a public option in there because I don't believe in privatizing or subsidizing private companies. So we've got healthcare insurance companies that, they're for profit. They're on the stock market. We're not talking about making widgets here, okay? I've had to, provide insurance for our employees for, probably 20 years. every time our premiums were going up and up and up. And we would pool in and they'd say, hey, your premiums are going up again. We go, well, we didn't have any claims. Well, yeah, but somebody else in the pool did. Well, what's good about being in the pool then? So what I was thinking is the new conservatism because insurance companies wrote that bill. You know, I mean, why wouldn't they? Just think about it. Say your premiums now. What's the incentive to keep your premiums down when you know that the federal government is going to subsidize for the people that can't afford your new premium hikes? They're going to get a break.
Well, and here's what I'll say. You're right. The insurance companies wrote the bill.
Yes.
But I'm going to remind you that not one Republican voted for it.
Exactly.
Okay?
Right.
Not one Republican in Minnesota voted for it.
Right.
Okay? We have an issue here where we have a governor that chose to implement something, broke it, and now he's decided that he's going to cry wolf and wants some way to fix it, either with tax increases or more subsidies or other things that are out there. What they're doing now is they're buying time. Well, they find a way to take it apart. And because of the way the laws are stacked, you're not going to take and end MNsure if the federal government's about to make changes, which that got derailed last week by the House Liberty Caucus. Some of those changes would have helped. With the problem, I do agree that maybe it didn't go far enough, but I'm hoping, I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to get something done before they start creating next year's insurance rates.
Well, it's April 1st is the date. Well,
April,
the thing is,
April 1st, tomorrow's the deadline. That's when they have to start creating.
We've had plenty of time prior to this deadline to come up with a plan. We've had Republicans for 7.5 years talking about repeal and replace, repeal and replace. Where was their bill? Then they wouldn't even show it to anybody. The House, in the federal we're talking now, but even in the state we should have had. So I was advocating for Minnesota Care to open up, because if you open that up, I feel because you have a profit-driven health insurance system instead of a purpose-driven health insurance, which Minnesota Care could be. There are plenty of great employees that are working for United Health Group or Blue Cross, whatever. They don't really like working in that corporate push, push, push. The squeeze is on all of us. Even in my industry, we've got to make it faster, better, and cheaper. Well, you don't see insurance companies having to come down. So what I'm saying is, if you had a public option here in Minnesota, open it up to everybody in Minnesota. Only Minnesota residents, though. It wouldn't work for everybody. But I think you could have people. It would be a government and private sector mix, because there's things that the private sector does better, as far as the websites or the things like that. But there's a lot of employees that wouldn't mind working on a healthcare because they're passionate about it helping people and making affordable premiums for all of us in the state. We'd be a state that has an option that no other state has, that instead of being a welfare state, we'd be an employment state where we could have small businesses purchase in there too. And I would like to see the people have their insurance on their own versus the employer. That's a huge cost to the employer. So if a person can go and get Minnesota Care for the same rate that, Anderson Dental School or wherever our company can get it for, that would help everybody. But you can't do that. If you go out and try to get on a plan under your employer, you maybe fill out a few things and you're on. But if you go in the individual market, they're going to make you put everything on. And before we had this discrimination against pre-existing conditions, oh my God, you would never qualify, because I tried.
Well, one of the things I understand the public option. The only problem that I have with bringing a public option is there's nothing that government does well. There's not one program that they run that they do well. And now you want to take and create a public option.
Well, not create when we already have it. It's just not opening it up the way we could.
But we don't do it well. There's nothing that we do well. I mean, when we talk about Medicare cuts, okay, we don't actually cut a service. We just go to the doctor and say we're going to pay less, and we don't change the way we deal with something. We don't change a law or allow for innovation. In fact, we stagnate innovation. We drive up costs by putting unnecessary procedures in place. You take a look at some of the costs in nursing homes right now. A lot of it's driven through record keeping. And then the way the state pays less to lower their costs in health and human services is they send out an auditor to make sure the paperwork's done right. And if it's not, they pay you at a lower rate, even if you've provided all the services, but because a piece of paperwork wasn't filled out. So that's not cutting costs.
No.
And negotiating the price for your health care should be between you and your doctor. Now, we do it for dentists, and we do it for cosmetic surgery, but you don't price shop your doctor to see how much is a
Well, there should be transparency, and we should be able to go out and shop.
But you can't because you don't
Exactly.
set the price.
Well, yeah, and you're correct, all those points. But what we're talking about right here is health insurance. And health insurance they don't do one procedure.
Nope.
And the thing is I just don't understand the affection that the Republicans have for private insurance because, say, you go out and you invest in United Health Corp. This is great, man. My stock's going great. And then you get a $5,000 premium increase, and you're thinking, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, what good is that? I mean, we're not making widgets, right? We're
No.
talking about health insurance. It's not a luxury here. It's something that healthcare is you're going to need it, I'm going to need it. We need to make it affordable for our Minnesotans, especially when they're retiring age. That's one of your biggest scares is what are you going to do if you don't have a pension or if you don't have you need to go out and buy health care insurance. It's not affordable. And I don't see this reinsurance bringing our prices down.
And then the reinsurance isn't designed to bring our prices down. Reinsurance is designed to protect those people that have been affected by the screw up that was created by Mark Dayton and the Democrats with the ACA from going broke and not having health care while the Republicans figure out a way to bring more competition in the marketplace. The other thing I'll add is we don't have health insurance anymore. Not in the way that you think about health insurance. Health insurance, if I had health insurance and it was like my car insurance, where if I need to use it, I pay a deductible and it's there and something happens, it's great. We have health insurance where we prepay for services and they're built into our costs because they cover our prescriptions, they cover any and all practices, they cover preventative care, they cover when you get sick, when you need a flu shot, and all that was mandated by the ACA. So even if you don't use it, like I don't get a flu shot every year. The only time I've ever gotten
I've never gotten one either.
Yeah, the only time I've ever gotten the flu is
We're not doctors here.
but if I don't use those services,
Yes.
I still have to pay for them because there's a chance that the insurance company could be forced to cover it.
Or there's a HSA, you have a high deductible. You pay for those things on your own, okay? There's nothing wrong with that.
But the other problem that you've got when I started, I'm very fortunate to have insurance through my employer. And
Myself also.
And we have Medica. But a few years back, we had Preferred One.
Yes.
Right before they opted out of MNsure and when they lost all that money, the employer that I worked for had Preferred One. And I paid 100% of everything without their rates until I hit $4,000, and then they covered everything. So it was a decent rate.
Yes.
It was a decent rate, except for the fact that when I would go to the doctor, it was $283 for a 20-minute doctor visit.
That's why I think there should be transparency in the healthcare itself too. I don't want to see doctors get reduced fees. I mean, they've got a ton of money they're paying for schooling and everything. But a lot of these procedures, and you hear about these stories about aspirins costing this much or MRIs costing this. I mean, some of those procedures could be brought down. But the thing is about the HSAs too and stuff, those you pay out of your pocket for those things. And I think every individual should have at least catastrophic insurance. And that's fine for a lot of these young people in case, and they pay for your doctor visits if you go in for a strep throat, or you can go to these mini clinics and things are a lot cheaper now and things and get your prescriptions. But at least you're covered for catastrophic. And we are a compassionate country. We're a compassionate state. They're going to cover these people. And what I don't like is a lot of people gamble on the fact that they got plenty of money, but they're not going to get insurance, Well, that hurts all of us because they are going to get the care.
So you support the mandate that you should be forced to buy health insurance?
I think everybody should at least be in the pool with at least catastrophic insurance. That eliminates the pre-existing condition clause. I don't agree with people going and trying to get insurance after the fact that they get sick. But if you're already in the pool, you're paying. And it's a much cheaper insurance if it's just catastrophic.
Minnesota had a system beforehand where if you have had insurance for the previous 12 months, they had to cover your pre-existing condition. Most areas and most insurance companies did that so that if an employer switched, somebody wouldn't lose coverage if they're dealing with cancer or a pregnancy.
But have you ever had to pay COBRA?
Yes.
Oh, it's expensive.
Well, for me, actually, I'm doing it right now.
Yep.
Okay. My insurance expires at the end of July.
Okay.
Okay. And I just made a career change.
Yep.
So I took my insurance with me because I was already at the deductible, and it actually saves me money.
Yeah.
So I just have to pay. I just have to pay the premium. But I can tell you that before the ACA, my out-of-pocket health insurance for my family was less than $5,000. Right now, my personal out-of-pocket health insurance, including the deductible, which we hit just about every year because it's not that bad. It's not hard to hit $4,000 with a family of 4.
Oh, God, yeah. That's pretty good, that plan you got, because...
Well, I pay through the nose for it,
yeah.
but health insurance costs us about $18,000 to $20,000 a year.
See, this is what I'm saying.
So I mean, you take a look at that.
Yeah.
There's nothing affordable about that, but the coverage that I get, okay, has gone through the roof. So there's no copays for prescriptions. There's no copays for anything once I've hit the deductible. I have no reason whatsoever. Now, I use mine responsibly because I don't do more than what I need to. But I can tell you that there's no incentive whatsoever to go down because they can't turn me down. So I don't need to be, I'm not rated based on my weight or my height. The only thing that they can put into my pool is whether or not I smoke. So we took away the ability for them to rate patients so that they can charge more for the patients that are going to be a higher risk because of lifestyle choices they make. We took away the ability to say, no, I'm not going to cover the fact that you have cancer because you haven't had insurance for 15 years. And now you have to go and buy insurance, and I'm going to have $1 million out my pocket, and then you're going to cancel the premium once we're done. We took away the policy limits and the caps, and we did all these things to the private insurance company. And we said, this is what you have to do. And
remember, they were part of writing this bill.
They wrote the bill in a manner that to accomplish what, it's kind of like creating a software program, all right? You have a really great idea to create a website like MNsure. This is what we want people to be able to do, and the primary thing there is to be able to enroll and buy health insurance.
Well, I'd rather keep it in the state than going to the federal like they want us to do.
Well, well, here's the thing.
That's a failing program anyway. I mean,
that needs to go away too. But let me finish this analogy. So it starts out with this simple plan of this is what you want to do, and then you had 2,000 people say, well, I want it to do this, and I want it to do that. And it spiraled into this bill that I'm all for that nobody ever read. And then we passed it. And everybody thought,
well,
oh my
God.
God.
To pass it to see what was in it.
Well, and we were about to do that again with the Republican one. So I understand the frustration and the confusion. I really defend our lawmakers at the Capitol. I think the Republican majorities are doing an amazing job based on what they walked into and based on what they have to deal with at the top of in the governor's race. I mean, he's already said that if they cut spending by too much, he'll shut the government down. So rather than pick a fight and put everyday Minnesotans at risk by shutting the government down or ending services and costing us even more money and creating a really uncomfortable situations for Minnesota taxpayers, we're going to do our best to compromise and come up with a solution that we can live with and move forward, because shutting it down tends to backfire against Republicans more than anything else.
Well, the media is definitely going to put it on the Republicans.
The media will put it on the Republicans. The Democrats will put it on the Republicans. They're already campaigning. They're already running on the fact that Republicans can't govern. And it's not that they can't govern. It's that they're still in a position of weakness because you have a governor that's got nothing to lose. He's not running for re-election. If he had his way, he'd increase taxes 3 or 4 more times and spend even more and sign up more people to be forced to join a union. Minnesotans are waking up to what's going on.
Oh, definitely. We saw it in the last election.
Well,
they didn't call Minnesota till the next day.
It's the first time in my lifetime that they had, and so I respect them for what they're doing. I think that we've been in the short end of the stick for so long as conservatives and so angry and so frustrated about healthcare, about transportation, about trains, about the Met Council, about all these other things. And now that we have a majority in the House and we have a one-seat majority in the Senate, we think we're going to be able to fix everything. It took us a long time to get here.
Well, and I appreciate your viewpoint on this too, because you've been in the party a long time. I'm brand new to the Republican Party. I came because of Donald Trump, which I had no interest in being in either party. I was in the Independence Party. So when Trump came in...
So you're the reason we used to lose.
Yeah, that's what they... No, I used to tell the Democrats, field a better candidate then if you're worried about that,
Yeah.
But the thing was, with coming to the party, the first night I went in a caucus, because I just figured, the way things have been happening, this isn't all Democrats that have caused... I think Minnesota's been declining. I don't think we've been going on the rise. So I think that, to me, it would be just like pro wrestling. The Democrats and Republicans. They fight on the floor. They fight in the House. They go out for drinks. and they dial for dollars. It's staged, you know. Well, when Trump comes into it, he blows this thing up, and everybody's against him. That's why I like them. And so I came into the party. I caucused for Donald Trump. I was all excited. There was like 3 of us in the room. Everybody was for Marco Rubio. I thought, no wonder we're having problems in this state. Marco Rubio seems like a nice guy, but he's no different than Barack Obama for the Democrats. He's never had a job outside of politics. You got to work like you and I do. We know what we're going through, buying this health care and doing these things, and then you go in and serve. These guys, that's what we would have got. Well, Trump, whether it's good or bad, he is shaking things up.
Well, and you know this. I met you at a Trump
Way back, yeah.
Trump rally in Forest Lake before caucuses.
Yeah.
There was some people that were concerned about transparency on how the caucus system works.
Yes.
And as a member of the Republican Party, I believe in transparency, and I didn't want this election stolen based on delegates or anything else.
Which I appreciate you for that, too.
I really want the conversation. And I kept my Trump support a little bit closer to the chest, but I was with you that we needed somebody to either blow it up or fix it and actually move the needle one direction or the other.
Right, right.
We've been stuck in this ground where everybody talks in the back room and nothing actually ever gets accomplished.
I absolutely agree.
The most frustrating thing for me is we have a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican President.
Yes.
We're not doing anything with voter ID. We're not doing anything with right to work. We're not doing anything with tax reform. Yep. We're not doing anything with any of these pro-life issues that we have as the Republican Party.
Right.
We have majorities that can pass everything.
Exactly.
Okay, so we can pass national right to work with some changes. I would support it, where you can't force a union to represent somebody who's not a member. Right now, if it's a right to work state and there's people at a union company that are protected by the unions, I wouldn't support that. But if you change that so the unions only have to represent their members, I think that you would force them to make better decisions that aren't as political, and you would give people a choice on whether or not they want to be part of an organization.
Well, the Democrats were pushing card check before. I've heard that kind of silenced down. I mean, that was their big thing, you know, taking away the secret ballot.
Well, and some of the right to work issues that, or some of the unions that are out there are actually doing a good job representing their members, and I talk about it in the private sector. I think they should have a little bit more freedom and control, but in the public sector unions, there's no need for them. Right. All they are is a fundraising arm for the Democratic Party. You have the majority in all 3 bodies of Congress right now, and that. Yeah. Then you pass national voter ID so that we can stop whatever it is we're working on, and that's where Real ID and some of these other things might actually play a role in it if we pass it and we were able to use it so that we could deal with that. But you've also got other issues that you need to deal with. We need tax reform. We need legislation reform. I mean, you have an undocumented or a documented track record of the Department of Education being a failure. It's 1979 the Department of Education started, I believe.
Yeah, we were doing fine before that. I mean, it was the Carter years, wasn't it, when we started it?
Well, I would be interested to see, and I haven't pulled the numbers, but what was the on-time graduation rate in 1980? What was the...
compared to now.
Compared to now. What was the learning gap or the achievement gap in 1980? I can tell you as a person who went to a Minneapolis public high school, when you graduated, you were employable.
Yes.
You could get a job, you could function as an adult, you could do a lot of the other things that are out there. Now we've set up a system where in a lot of these schools and a lot of these school districts, we think they're going to fail.
Yes.
So we don't even bother to teach them. We try to get them basic skills and hold them to a different standard and a different level than anywhere else that's out there.
And we should also be educating the kids for vocational training. Not everybody's cut out for a 4-year degree. I've been in the trade business. It's been a great career for me. We're not all 4-year degree people. So let's have the vocationals again. We need trades, and it's a lot of employable people, and we need it's a shifting dynamics out there in the workforce.
Well, when I graduated from Edison,
I guess we're getting a wrap up time, so Joshua, but you finish your point because
when I graduated from Edison, we had beauty school magnets, we had automotive programs, we had computer programming programs, we had machine shop programs.
Dental lab tech, that's what I do. We had that.
we had all of those skills so that when you graduated from high school, you could go get a job that was 2 or 3 times minimum wage. And we did away with that with this theory that everybody should go to a 4-year college.
We definitely agree on that.
That might be another conversation.
Yes. You know what, I will say, I'm still in support of Minnesota Care, and I'm still against reinsurance, but you have articulated that message better than anybody I've talked to. And I appreciate your knowledge on these things and some of the points about the what's going on in Washington, D.C. too. I said, I'm glad that you're part of the Republican Party, and I'm meeting a lot of like-minded people. And it was really enjoyable to have you on here tonight because you're a great guest, and I think the audience is going to learn a lot from this.
I hope so, and we need to continue conversations.
I agree.
And they need to be respectful conversations and push this country back to the right, to more of a conservative agenda.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Well, thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
It was a great conversation, and I hope everybody out there enjoys it. And remember, if you want to email me at bobtalk22@yahoo.com, if you want to come on the show like Joshua, if you want to challenge me, or just if you got an issue out there you want to talk about, come on the show. This is a great way to do it. It's a comfortable studio, isn't it?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a lot of fun. The lights are a little bright.
Oh, yeah. Well, you look really pretty with that, though. So, good night, everybody, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next show.
Yeah.